go up Meeting Street to get into our zone. The only churches which were allowed to call themselves a church were churches of England. If you were a non-Anglican church and a place of worship, you'd refer to yourself as the Meeting House. The Meeting House is being found on Meeting Street. Selling you alcoholic popsicles. It'd be self-contained. They could be carriage houses where the carriage and the horses were kept, or they could be servant quarters that are now residential housing. As we go by the oldest residential house in the city to our left here, built in 1712, the William Rhett House has survived every single earthquake, fire, tornado, hurricane, and Taco Tuesday. William Rhett, the legendary pirate hunter, who was known as the Scourge of the Pirates. As pirates were treated as rock stars in the late 1600s and early 1700s. They were robbing Spanish ships, coming to Charleston, selling us those stolen Spanish goods at a heavily reduced rate. Hey, fires. And this is one of three that remain. A lookout would hang out in the crow's nest of the fire tower, and anytime they saw smoke or flames, they strapped to a prisoner of war camp during the Civil War in 1865. A day of remembrance was had for those soldiers who would lose their lives or were buried here and whose bodies would later be moved to a nearby graveyard. Over 10,000 people participated in that day of remembrance in 1865. This now known as the First Memorial Day. Horses still hang out here in Hampton Park. To our right is where the building with the green roof is. Replica of what the students would receive on a far larger scale. The graduates of the Citadel received their class rings just a few days ago when they had their graduation ceremony. The original class was 342 students. It's now risen to around 3,727 students. A little over 1,000 of them graduated last Saturday. They used through the land or in the sea. We have an anchor from the Coral Seas. It's the largest anchor I've ever seen. A Sherman tank that would have been on the field of battle during the Second World War. And in service during Vietnam is the Phantom aircraft to our left. Had top speeds over 2,200 miles per hour, and you can see the scorch marks from the jet engines in the back, which also would have been service during Vietnam. Famous as being Patricia's house today, who's a reality television patriot that was filmed here in 1999, starring Mel Gibson and Heath Ledger, who alongside her husband John Fisher ran it in and were serving guests who were traveling a far distance away, traveling alone, devil's tea. Once they drank the devil's stars, stretching up toward the sky, stars were welded into the ironwork by an 18th century ironsmith worker, Christopher Burner, who had to get a furnace 2,200 degrees hot Fahrenheit and used a hammer hammering out the molten iron into the gay-hand swords that we get to see. Philip Simmons, a 19th century ironsmith worker, created the iron fence to our left. Picking up a hammer when he was 9 years old, wouldn't put it down until he turned 86. Has over 1,000 iron creations and is Charleston's most famous Iron Man. It looked like in 1841, they were able to bring it back to life by using the old roots, which were. And because our kitchen houses, servant quarters, and carriage houses are now residential homes, instead of renumbering waters takes place, the two rivers become one. side, which is also where Fort Johnson is located. Would marvel what a wondrous rainbow row of houses, and the name has stuck ever since. Built making our way by the French Huguenot Church. The French Huguenots were French Protestants who came down here in search of religious freedom. The French influence is the reason why this whole area around us is known as the French Quarter. I personally would call it Theater Street, as the Dock Street Theater is located. We're making our way through the market that was built in 1801. This is also the lowest elevation point in the city. On Christmas of December of 1989, when Hurricane Hugo hit us.
Of 1861. Those two churches were super lucky it went right.